Welcome. Today is the 22nd of the second month of 2022. In these videos, we talk about the nature of the times. My goal in these videos is to share with you the essential ingredients so that way you are aware with what you are working with. For those of you who would like to tune into the universe and learn how to work with these essential ingredients yourself, you may want to check out my Astro School. There I have new course curriculum added each month. We also have really wonderful meetings, a monthly Q&A circle, and additional meetings at the Rasa Lila community website. For those of you who have not checked it out, there's some amazing incubation and creativity taking place at our website. Now, we've got a very mystical new moon in Pisces on the horizon, initiating the month of March. There are some major moving parts going on these next several weeks, so I want to be very concise in understanding some of these major cycles that are completing and beginning, because we are going to notice the breakdown and the shift into a fresh incoming energy as we enter into the month of March 2022. Now, one of the major underlying cycles that is a signature of this year of 2022 is this recent Venus station, where Mars actually just passed in front of Venus while Venus just stationed direct and is now starting to move forward. They're both moving together at the very last degrees of Capricorn, and then Venus is going to pass Mars once more at 0 degrees and like 1 solar arc minute of Aquarius on March 6th. So we have Venus and Mars coming together and passing Pluto on March 3rd. This is a very powerful cycle, new beginning, laying of a foundation, and there is a raw energetic potential. It's like there's this raw physical heat and transformative stress that we're going to use to really initiate and break in these new cycles. Now, what are the cycles when we're talking about Venus, Mars coming together with Pluto? Well, Mars is our individuality, our willpower, a necessary freedom to discover who we are and what we want to do. Venus is this exchange. So it's how is our will and our individuality being exchanged with other people and the world. These new cycles beginning at the last degrees of Capricorn, Saturn's own south node, is like transforming and molding these materials into a new structure. And what these materials are, when we're talking about the planets Venus and Mars, is our own biology, our own bodies, our own sexuality. It's very physical where this energy and transformation is taking place. And we can really channel this energy, direct this energy, and focus this energy into the birthing of new structures and forms. Now, rather amazingly, asteroid Vesta also joins Venus, Mars, and Pluto. So the last days of February, especially going into March, that's where we have this Venus, Vesta, Mars conjunction. February 27th, Moon, Vesta, Venus, Mars, all at 24 degrees Capricorn, before Venus and Mars pass Pluto on the 27th. Now, Vesta is a very high priestess, Virgo-like asteroid that has so much to do with focus, devotion, service. So again, there's this raw energy, and we're transforming the materials at hand. These new cycles are beginning in the physical, our raw energy, sexuality, biology. It's like we are aligning our desires and our values with our world, relationships, and service in a new way. It's at the very base foundation level. We can really be working with root stuff. We can be working through base insecurities, base fears, separation anxieties, insecurities coming from the world and society. And this is also, when we're talking about the last degrees of Capricorn going into Aquarius, where there tends to be this build up, breakdown, and then liberation, really breaking out of the confines of the old. And we can really be experiencing that build up or that congestion or claustrophobia as we're meeting these walls of the old, and these old structures, patterns, and thought forms are kind of quaking and shaking, and then they can crumble. They can really break down into this very liberating movement forward into the future. But this is where we can, at first, end of February into the first week of March, there is this confrontation. What are those old patterns? And this is where there can be this breakdown. So there's this hump of transforming raw material going on. End of February, Venus and Mars will form their new conjunction with Pluto on the 3rd, and then enter into Aquarius on the 6th, where there's like this loaded spring of intensity and raw energy and working it into something new. And then this springboard, like a spring that's been suppressed by the gravity of Saturn, is now lifting off through the liberating, breaking the rules, challenging the authorities, challenging tradition, challenging what's norm. What Aquarius and Uranus will introduce can be quite unconventional, ahead of its time, introducing new possibilities. Okay, so we see that Mercury in Aquarius is joining with Saturn on the 2nd, is going to square Uranus on the 24th of February. And there is also this very innovative, forward-looking, genius type of energy that can be bringing these new directions, thought forms, patterns, people, places into clarity, And this also indicates we are evolving our base thought patterns, our means of communicating and exchanging information. Mercury is like the phone operator god, how we are connecting these different dots on the map. Information, people, resources. There's a big change up to the exchange of resources, energy, money, people, place, base essential needs, property, food, agriculture, etc. Now, this Mercury square to Uranus, conjunct Saturn, it's very brilliant. It's also very scrutinizing. This is a scientific observation, clarification, and bringing new visions. This is like when we're starting to peer into the future and we have these downloads, or we have this breakthrough, like a eureka moment, and we're getting zapped by lightning, and these new patterns, new possibilities just suddenly drop from on high. This Mercury is going to introduce these new possibilities into consciousness. How can we structure a new way of functioning in reality? When we get to the new moon and talk about this Pisces season that's going to be coming, we're exploring this mystical reality of interconnectivity. Aquarius Uranus is the interconnectivity of our species consciousness. And our species is going through this revolution, this transformation of how we're exchanging base resources, money, agriculture, food. This can very much affect the economy, governments, rule making, bureaucracies. It's all like in this very high intensity, hot, melting these raw materials so they can be transformed into something that's new. So this Mercury specifically in a 3rd quarter square to Uranus, Saturn in a 3rd quarter square to Uranus, this is the breakdown of conditioned thought patterns. This is when we're breaking down traditional modes of thinking and behaving. This is also where, through the elimination of those old blockages, it's like something is getting uncorked. And then there's going to be this increased flow. We're tapping into, new ways of exchanging. And that's going to open up these new flows. But this can very much make the space for the future to come in, for us to receive these blueprints or maps of what's coming next. This can also be an extremely exciting period. Mercury and Uranus rules the nervous system. So seeing Mercury in Uranus sign of Aquarius, square to Uranus, this next week, the last week of February into the first week of March. Very excited. There can be a lot of anticipation as well as nervous excitement as we're gazing into the unknown, as we're anticipating that there's certainly going to be changes and we're breaking from these old molds and taking that step into the future. So again, this is going to be some of the shift between now and the next time I see y'all, when we talk about the coming full moon in Virgo. So again, end of February, Venus and Mars, last degrees of Capricorn, breaking free, forming a new conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius. There is, again, this penetration, dimensional barrier getting shattered, and then this opening up into new possibilities. These are new realities that Aquarius and Uranus introduces. Now, this Venus-Mars conjunction has so much to do with, again, our fundamental biology, our fundamental sexuality. This certainly plays out in terms of all fundamental exchange, monetarily, work associates, collaborative projects, and certainly we can see these shifts playing out through our relationships. Now, this Venus-Mars cycle is a very important cycle in and of itself. We see this dynamic reflected through the wheel of the zodiac, where Aries, Mars sign, is opposite to Libra, Venus's sign. And this dichotomy has everything to do with the relationship between self and other. So what we're really breaking in is the need for self-autonomy and independence, necessary freedom to be ourselves, to act on our own instincts, to have our own patterns of behavior, which will be unique per each and every individual. Every individual has their own sexuality. Every individual has their own way of being alive, of having energy. How do we feel that spark of energy that keeps us moving, that keeps us excited? Some people are mountain bikers, some people are skydivers, some people explore the local library or museum or go off into nature. There's going to be this uniqueness that every single person has to honor within our relationships. Not just intimate relationships, but any relationship is two unique individuals forming a bridge. And that is truly what the zodiac sign of Libra is all about. There's this exploration of polarity and opposition and ping-ponging information back and forth and receiving the mirror, the reflection of the other, to understand the difference between myself and the other, and then comprehending those differences. Where can we connect? Where do we need to go in our own way? So this is about freedom within relationship as opposed to either freedom or relationship. Now, to highlight this theme all the more, we see asteroid Juno, the partnership asteroid, square to Uranus on March 2nd. Now, this also produces an extremely experimental, erratic, unpredictable nature in our relationships. There can be this excitement again to explore, to push on boundaries, to break down the old, to get on that surfboard or that springboard and to push into a new reality. And this can also be a tremendous restlessness born out of the suppression of the old dynamics. Here is where each and every one of us are going to have natural allergic reactions. Our soul is sick of various dynamics, behaviors, and patterns, and this is where we get this electrical feeling that's like, okay, time to do it different, and time to spring into a new action and spring into a new, direction or initiation. Now, this is also something to be wary of, is when we have these types of suppressed and then blowing up and, contraction, expansion types of energies. And that's very much how I would describe the overall energy end of February into March. This new moon in itself has this expansion, contraction. This new moon in Pisces with Jupiter, this expansive principle. Wow, new visions, new possibilities, new worlds, amazing synchronicities. Everything's surreal. Everything's a psychedelic trip. And then this Venus-Mars-Pluto conjunction on the south node of Saturn. And we got to build this energy in the world. We got to anchor this into form. We got to make this actually work. So there's this expansion, contraction to break in these new patterns. how we're relating, how we're exchanging resources, and how we're liberating ourselves to be free, to feel that openness is absolutely essential at this time. It's absolutely essential to have that flexibility. These are the needs of this forthcoming month of March. Surrender, openness to change, flexibility, unpredictability. So there's a real core need to experiment with this Aquarius energy. This is, again, to introduce new dimensional possibilities. Uranus is an amazingly profound reality that we have in our existence. Uranus in Aquarius is the guarantee that there is always going to be more, that we will continuously evolve our own consciousness. Our own consciousness is going through this very fast-paced breakthrough evolution. We can seize this opportunity to experiment, to play with these raw materials at hand. It's like we need to have some of this trial and error to really get online these new connections, resources, new ways of dealing in the world. Is these planets in Capricorn? We do need to take that seriously. It's not just dreaming it, it's dreaming it into being, is the reality I'm speaking to here. And there are additional dimensions. There are beings, there are, like wells of raw resource and energy and potential that humanity has not even discovered yet, right? This would be a period, for example, we could see great advances in technology that could actually benefit humanity, which is what we want our technology to do. By aligning our opening to the greater cosmos, Pisces, with our actual roots, tuning into what we're working with on this earth. Uranus transiting Taurus is one of the major signatures of this year. Summertime, the moon's north node will transit Uranus and Taurus, and it's this period where such advances can really take us forward. And it's all about resources, the earth. It's a wisdom of the earth, where there can be this amazing beauty, breakthrough, download, like we can tune into these wells of appreciation for this earth, just as much as we can be tuning into the actual pragmatic wells of resources physically. This is also tuning into spiritual wells of inspiration, remembering who we are, remembering what we're connected to. That's the seed that we want to sow for this new moon. 12 degrees Pisces on March 2nd. First, I want to speak to, while I'm still in the same flow with Uranus, the Earth, this dimensional breakthrough into new wells of resources. There's a beautiful symbolism with asteroid Lilith conjuncting Uranus under this new moon and exact on March 4th. Lilith is the original primal feminine, the raw, naked nature that births all creation and reality. Lilith joining Uranus and Taurus is this awakening and journeying into the future through reinventing how we relate to the earth, how we relate to our bodies, which is born out of the earth and one with the earth. How we are tuning into our senses, which is like a divine exchange of information between spirit, our environment, the earth, and our bodies. Like we are all these living antennas receiving these spirals of information, inspiration from above, from the heavens, and then anchoring this into our bodies, which is a temple. It is a container. We are crystals of that divine essence. And so being born out of the earth, one with the earth, one with the seasons and cycles of the earth. This is the reality that all of us forget in this day and age, in our egos and our distracting society and culture. But regardless, that original primordial feminine is always there, despite us having largely forgotten completely about her in the last several thousands of years. We still have our bodies. They are still online and connected to the earth. So As we're discovering more about our bodies, senses, and the interrelationship of all that is, there can be some profound revelation here. Our bodies are sacred temples. The worshiping of our bodies and senses is one and the same with the worshiping of the feminine or the earth when we are centered in an authentic flow. Because, of course, we could say or act like we're doing that and just be, totally disconnected or floating around. But if we have that authentic connection between body, senses, goddess, and the earth, this can birth these profound realities that we're not being selfish by focusing on our own comfort and sustenance. Taurus has been turned into this selfish, laziness via the patriarchy. Venus has been absolutely tarnished and thrown under during the patriarchy. And there's the loss of this wisdom that when we take care of our bodies, we resurrect our connection to the earth. We receive that ancient wisdom. And there is the opportunity to awaken that ancient wisdom through our bodies and through our relationship to the surrounding environment. This is all Taurus side of Venus. At the time of this new moon, this coming month of March, is incredibly profound, is really going to open the doorway to these new possibilities. Okay? So a nice thing about 2022 is these new moons are beginning our Julian calendar months. So this new moon, March 2nd, really sets the tone for the forthcoming month of March, being a creative and spiritual envisioning and expansion. For those who have been following me, you may have noticed that I speak to the new moons with a bit more of a degree of gentleness and respect and honoring and speaking to the potential of what can come this forthcoming month, because the new moon is this symbolism and energy. It's a seed sowing time. And during the full moons, it's a little bit more apparent with what we're working with, and it's a bit different energy. But this new moon, March 2nd, folks, wise souls, this is the time to sow this seed that can so much expand into these beautiful, mind-blowing psychedelic gardens and flowers this coming month. This is a month of creative and spiritual expansion. This is our new moon, joined Jupiter, exalted in the sign of Pisces. This is the new moon to celebrate, to sow the seed for Jupiter in Pisces. That's a beautiful signature for this year of 2022. Jupiter in Pisces is this miraculous bleed through, inconceivable beauty and divine dance of all that is. Synchronicity abounds. Missing parts, places, and people are coming back online. Jupiter is the truth. It's our awareness. It's our understanding of life and nature. This is the wisdom, the reality, the perception, the touching of the truth that everything is interconnected. We are all part and parcel of divine orchestration. All parts work for the overall symphony, for the macro organism. Nothing is insignificant. We're going to see, taste, feel, experience this. Every morsel of life is entrenched, is saturated in symbolism. The hidden realities, the causal plane, the fabric of existence being that of whirling color, light, and sound. Our essential nature being that of beauty, music, divine, and eternal movement, is being revealed, is being exposed through a mystic merging of consciousness, through a mystical interdimensional bleed through. This is Pisces reality and existence, the nature of Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac, is boundarylessness. All of the planets in the zodiac merge together in the existential soup of Pisces. Life is a trip. It will remain to be a profound and surreal period to come. Sun remains in Pisces through March 20th. Mercury will be in Pisces March 9th through March 27th. Venus, planet of beauty and love, will be in romantic Pisces April 5th to May 2nd. Mars will transit Pisces April 14th through May 24th. This new moon is just initiating this profound, creative, colorful, mystical period that we can all tune into. We can all be channels of the divine. We can all allow our hearts to be uplifted and carried by that lightness, that effortless flow, that eternal movement that is always true and always alive. This new moon in Pisces, semi-square to the Venus-Mars-Pluto conjunction, brings up this dynamic of a fulcrum between the transformation taking place in our bodies, our biological relation between self, other, and world, in tandem with the visionary, creative, spiritual expansion and unfolding. This new moon conjunct Jupiter in Pisces. The key to working with this incredible, mystical, creative mechanism is in a need for surrender and letting go. So that way we can allow this new moon sextile to Uranus and Taurus, allow for new doorways and possibilities of receiving resources and support by tapping into new currents of exchange. Again, there's going to be these wells out there that we have not quite yet discovered. That can be some of the joy that we can really not only appreciate and fill up our glass with, but use to expand our own consciousness. That's the beauty of this new moon conjunct Jupiter. We can also very much tune into that joyous, optimistic spark and joy to be alive. Jupiter being the expansive principle. You know, the last lunar cycle began on Saturn. February was a bit more of Saturn constriction, working on boundaries, structures. Hey, how is this? We need to create boundaries here. We need to create form here. And then this opening, dissolving of the forthcoming period, March, new moon in Pisces. The feeling of this opening, dissolving, I like to describe that feeling of Jupiter as being like when we were children. When I grow up, I can be an astronaut. The next day when I grow up, I can be a scuba diver. There's that sense that we can be or do anything. The world is a huge place. There's always something to discover on the other horizon. This is an amazing month for traveling, whether that be physically, whether that be metaphysically. This is a time where we can be traveling to other dimensions. This is our springtime of new birth, new energy, vitality returning in our northern hemisphere. And I don't know, I imagine in the southern hemisphere, it's got to be a profoundly mystical turning into fall and winter time. I wish you so much the best in all of this birthing creativity and discovery. For those of you who would like to tune into additional currents from myself, these free videos that go onto YouTube is actually just a small current. And I've got larger currents going on at my community. My community is free to join. We do have a monthly free meeting. There's amazing discussions, support, and space holding with beautiful faces, artists, pioneers, and creators, as well as those fascinated with the science of astrology. And I also offer paid memberships, a little bit wider currents with a little bit more focus, a little bit more exclusivity, smaller gatherings and smaller groups for my Q&A, which meets once a month. I do basically rapid fire meetings for those who want to take a look at their chart once a month, and for those who would like to explore more of this profound mystical science that does interconnect all things, is the reality of astrology. Be sure to check out my Astro School at rasalilacommunity.com.